What's going on, people? Myke C-Town here, another episode of Backpack Classics. This is where I talk about indie, underground, backpack classics, albums that probably won't get touched by Dead End Hip Hop. This is powered by my patrons, where I give you guys a choice between a couple different albums. This time, it was between Souls and Mischief's 93 Till Infinity and Aesop Rock's Bazooka Tooth, and you guys voted, and Bazooka Tooth won. So, I remember I didn't even know that this album was dropping until I was at Tower Records and I was walking by their listening station and I was like, oh shit, new Aesop Rock. I was already a huge fan of Labor Days, so I was like, oh, I want to hear this. The funny thing is, there was a write-up on the album that was right next to the listening station, and I remember it was shitting on the album, saying things like this person had no idea how to put a song together and he didn't even know how to properly rap into a microphone. It said at times it sounded like he was close up to the mic, and at times it sounded like he was really far away from the mic. So of course I was like, shit, I gotta hear this album because maybe he's falling off. First song, I'm like, okay, this is exactly why you don't listen to people that you don't know when it comes to music. The first song is outlining this kind of superhero alter ego named Bazooka Tooth. It's kind of like what Open Mike Eagle did on his most recent album, but here it's taking things that one would see as negative and making them into positive attributes of this hero. Diamond cutter spine, armadillo armor that bends around the blades, bugs in the beard, ebony in the lung piece, bricks in the Timbs, bazooka in the tooth that he's flashing at your friends. And immediately I'm like, okay, this sounds like fucking Aesop Rock, and it's dope. Then on to New York Electric, which comes in with this really dope beat produced by Aesop Rock himself, who produces a lot of the songs on this album. But it's at these really cool off-kilter drums, this really cool sample that's really catchy, and he comes in spitting hard. I cut the ropes, breathe, fresh puddles of pigeon blood and smoke, load bazooka, scope the culprit, hulks over a broken hookah, got rebel camps with siphons, amped to cookie cut the wattage, electric ilk NY raised on B-movie sluts and gossip. Wait, so this is what the reviewers saw as someone who didn't know how to rap? Like, and this song has one of my favorite moments on the whole album, actually. Skipper's out of happy pills again. He's in the neighbor's garbage. He's making paper dolls decorated with targets. He's labeling the dolls with the names of shitty rap artists, then tearing out the still beating heart from the loose leaf carcass. Mind you, this was still during that time where underground rap and mainstream rap were at odds. So a line like that was just really dope to this indie rap nerd fan in me. Then you got No Jumper Cables. I believe this was the first single on the album, and this is a song about graffiti and Aesop's love of it. Everything about it is just so b-boy. Something that I don't feel like Aesop Rock would really do nowadays, but when this came out, man, I feel like this was really next level. The multiple coded references to graffiti throughout the song are just so dope. Burn train buffers, my fancy, up jumps the boogie delivering eye jammies. And the hook is the one that gets stuck in my head out of everything else that's on this album. Catapult, jump motherfuckers, no batteries. Catapult, jump motherfuckers, no cables. Another standout track is Cook It Up. It's a more lighthearted song about Bazooka Tooth, the alter ego, meeting a chick and trying to kind of woo her. But my favorite part is when he sits her down to explain what she's getting into. So let's just get a few things out of the way. I'm clinically bonkers and hate just about everyone God's great earth offers. I won't be getting dressed up to impress your family, dear. And if I can't wear jeans and sneakers, then I won't be lamping there. That's just genius to me. And the way the song closes out with the Party Fun Action Committee outro. Party Fun Action Committee is a group with Blockhead, and I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that this is him singing the outro. Watch out, ladies, cause you know he don't love ya. Bazooka Tooth is one bad motherfucker. He's a low-life pimp with a low-life game. He need a no-life dame with a strobe light frame. That shit is so smooth, especially when you hear him do it. No ring on the finger, there ain't no strings attached. But if you love television and manic depression, get a carton of cigarettes and we can make it happen. Yeah, I ain't got that pimp-ass voice that he does, but believe me, the shit is tight. But there's no way I could talk about this album without mentioning We're Famous. Like, when I first heard this song, I had no idea that this was a diss against Esoteric, and I had no idea who they were talking about, but it was just originally my shit because the beat was really dope, and I thought they were just talking shit. It started off with L's verse, and he's just spitting about his history as a staple in the indie rap scene, line after line. I brought that genuine shit in 96 before you knew the underground or independent existed. Every time I prescribe a new pill, revolution, quickly define the standard for indie rap distribution. Had everybody sprung, wondering where I came from, screaming out independent as fuck with an insane tongue. This shit is definitely bragging, but it's all true. And then there's some esoteric specific lines towards the end of his verse, like, they've been failing for years and call themselves vets, that's bold. Motherfucker, you're not a vet, you're just old. And Aesop goes right in with some more, but my favorite was probably this one. Fraggle Rock your 4-finger watch, I clock 99-cent wristbands and still know the time when your record flops. Definitely about esoteric, but this is such a dope track that makes me miss that Aesop Rock and LP collaborative chemistry. And it's one of these days I should do a video on that whole Weathermen versus Demigods beef. It produced some really dope tracks. But moving on, Frijoles. One of my favorite beats on this album is done by Aesop Rock himself, and I think he outdoes himself here. 1135 with Mr. Lift. This is Lift and Aesop going back and forth telling this crazy story about all of this crazy shit that happened all in one night while they slept. It makes me miss these two working together as well. The closing track, Mars Winds, has become one of his most popular songs, even to this day. Like, it's another really dope track produced by himself, and the production of this track is really dope, and the progression that the beat moves in is fresh. And it's dope enough at the beginning, but the song takes on a completely new life once that beat changes and Aesop Rock really snaps. Overall, I think this is such a dope record. It's interesting that it was mostly produced by Aesop himself, and I think that was a lot of the complaints that I'd seen from people, but I enjoyed the production on this album. You can definitely see that he's progressed a lot when you listen to songs that he's produced nowadays, and the beats on this album were not quite up to the level of what they were on Labor Days. Here, Aesop Rock's beats do come across a bit like LP Light, but the beats are still b-boy as fuck while still completely off-kilter and bizarre as shit, but I know a lot of people would have preferred him rapping over Blockhead production as he'd done previously. The rapping is really what's mind-boggling here. Like, when I first heard this album, outside of LP, I didn't really know anyone else who actually rapped like Aesop Rock. Like, the way he puts his lines together is so unconventional that when you sit down and you actually read the lyrics along to him rapping, it's such a mind fuck to think of how he could perform these tracks live because the patterns don't even make any sense. And of course, his word choice is also a mindfuck. It's actually fun to sit down and read his lyrics and try to decipher what he's talking about. Like, you get everything from obscure rapper homages to veiled political commentary to statements about mental health to Fugazi references, you know, self-criticisms, to him talking about trying to deal with the fame of becoming a more popular rapper. Like, there's so much shit packed into this album that I feel like I'll be finding new shit for years to come. It's like one song on this album has enough hard-hitting, coded, poetic bars to fill up another rapper's entire album. This is definitely not my favorite Aesop Rock album, but it's the album that turned a whole new group of people onto him. You know, we truly don't know where his career would have went without. I feel like this was a breakthrough album. I know some people might argue that Labor Days was, but I remember a lot of people who didn't know who Aesop Rock was before. Once this album came out, they were just like immediate Aesop Rock fans. So I think that alone qualifies this as a backpack classic. So if you guys have heard this album, let me know what you think in the comment section down there. If you want to get involved with voting for the next Backpack Classics album, make sure you guys sign up to be a patron. The link is in the description section down there. And as usual, thank you for living, thank you for loving, thank you for being you. Please don't die, and I'll see you guys next time. All right? Peace, bitches.